The air over the Arizona Territory was a physical presence, a hot, gritty blanket woven from sun and pulverized sandstone. It choked the throat and coated the teeth, settling like fine flour on the brim of every hat and the shoulders of every coat. It was the summer of '81, and the law, what little there was of it, had long since abandoned the dusty trails leading to the small settlement of Red Bluff. Into this suffocating atmosphere rode three men. Leading them was William H. Bonney, better known across half a dozen territories as Billy the Kid. He was deceptively slight, barely 21, with the quick, restless eyes of a hungry predator and the slight, almost nervous tilt of a man who spent his life waiting for the next gunshot. He rode a good mare, Nellie, whose coat was dusted the color of rust. Flanking him were his loyal lieutenants. Dirty Dave Rudabore, a mountain of a man, wide through the chest and mean-tempered. Dave's face was perpetually shaded by the low brim of his hat, and his gear, a heavy Sharps buffalo rifle slung across his back and twin Colt single actions, looked as much a part of him as his own scarred hands. On the other side rode Tom O'Folliard, younger than Dave, leaner and known for his easy, boyish grin that vanished faster than smoke the moment a gun was drawn. Tom favored the Remington Model 1875, a powerful weapon he handled with casual authority. They moved slowly along the main road, their horses' hooves kicking up the ubiquitous dust that hung suspended in the still, dry air. The rhythmic creak of the saddle leather and the musical jingle of their heavy spurs were the only sounds. Quiet, Billy noted, his voice low, almost contemplative. Too quiet, even for this sun-baked graveyard. Where's the fight, the music, the sound of a hammer? Smells like trouble, Dave grumbled, adjusting his neckerchief. Looks like the kind of town that buried its last hope yesterday. Keep your eyes up, kid. The silence was the deepest kind of threat. When they finally pulled their horses to a halt in front of the Iron Horse Saloon, the lack of activity was unnerving. The swinging doors hung still, the plank boardwalk looked untouched. Billy noticed the small, telltale signs of recent tragedy, a window of the adjacent livery stable boarded up clumsily, and a dark, dried patch, a starburst of old blood, on the planks near the bank. Billy dismounted with the coiled energy of a rattlesnake. He scanned the rooftops, the shadowy angles of the alleys, the back windows of the businesses. The heat was ferocious, but Billy felt a cold prickle of alertness on the back of his neck. This was not a robbery gone wrong. This was deliberate. Tom, you watch the horses and the north end. Dave, you come with me. Let's find the witness before the killer rides back to clean up his mess. They entered the general store, the only place where a light flickered weakly behind a display of dried beans. The interior smelled of coal oil, dry spices, and sadness. Behind the long, scarred counter stood a woman, Mrs. Martha Kane. She was maybe 50, thin as a rail, wearing a simple calico dress covered by a perpetually dusty apron. Her eyes, though, were the focal point, sunken, ringed with dark fatigue, yet possessing a desperate, unwavering focus. She was polishing a glass kerosene lamp, her movements stiff and mechanical. Billy stepped forward, immediately removing his hat, his dark hair damp with sweat. It was a gesture of respect he reserved for women and the dead. Ma'am, William Bonney, passing through. This town feels like it's holding its breath. What happened here? Martha froze. She looked directly at Billy, and recognition, the flash of fear that acknowledged the face on 1,000 wanted posters, was quickly overwritten by profound, exhausted grief. She didn't scream or faint. She merely nodded slowly. You know who I am, she stated, her voice dry as parchment. Enough to know I'm usually blamed for this sort of thing, Billy replied with a ghost of his infamous grin. But I didn't ride through here. And this looks like a job done by men with too much time and too much power. Martha placed the lamp down. She finally spoke, her voice strained like wire stretched too tight. It was my boy, Caleb, 15. He was working at the livery. 2 days ago, a band of thieves hit the bank. She pointed a trembling finger toward the street. But they weren't really thieves. They were enforcers, hired by Judge Thorne to scare people off their land claims. They were careless. Caleb saw the brand on their horses, a distinctive coiled snake with a spur. Dave Rudebois swore under his breath, recognizing the sign. That was the mark of the new vicious regulators who were terrorizing the Northern Territories, operating under the cloak of corrupt law. Caleb was smart. He knew the brand meant something bad. They knew he knew. They rode back yesterday morning while he was sweeping the stalls. One bullet, straight through the back. The marshal, Sheriff Benton, rode through, took $10 from the floor, called it accidental discharge, and rode out. He told me to keep my mouth shut. Martha began to sob, silent, rattling tremors that shook her whole body. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished silver locket. They left me nothing but this, Mr. Bonney, and the knowledge that his killer is riding free, probably laughing at me over a drink right now. I have no money, no one to fight them. I'm just a woman with a dead son and a whole lot of empty anger. Billy took the locket. His expression, usually so fluid and expressive, turned to cold stone. He held the locket gently, then closed his hand over it, his knuckles turning white. His mind was already turning, mapping routes, calculating risks. The law won't touch them because the law is paying them, Billy summarized, his voice flat. It's the same ugly story everywhere. Tell me the name of the man who pulled the trigger, Ma'am. It wasn't Barlow. It was his second, a woman. A rider they called the Hawk. They say she's ice and gunpowder. She rode back alone to do the deed. The mention of the name brought a sharp, momentary pause to Billy. A flicker of recognition, quickly dismissed as coincidence. Women gunfighters were rare, but not unheard of. The Hawk. Good. We got a name and a target. Ma'am, keep your locket. I ain't doing this for money. I ride for my own code. And my code says you don't kill a witness who's just a boy. That's cowardice. I promise you, by the time the next sun sets, your boy will be avenged. They will regret ever crossing William H. Bonney. As Billy handed the locket back, Tom O'Folliard burst through the door, his eyes wide and urgent. Billy, upstairs, old Nevada Hotel. There's a sniper up on the roof. I saw the sun catch the lens of a long-barrel Creedmoor. He's watching this store. They didn't just kill the boy. They're waiting for the mother to break the silence. Billy didn't need to look. He knew it was true. This was a sophisticated, cold-blooded operation. The killers were professional, determined to leave zero evidence behind. Dave, Tom, get out the Winchesters. We got an appointment on the roof. Ma'am, get down and stay away from the windows. The price for your boy's silence just went up. Billy replaced his hat, pulling the brim low over his eyes. His grin was back, but it was purely predatory now. Looks like we don't have to ride north to find the first piece of the snake, he murmured. The snake came to us. We deliver our justice, and then we ride to the head of the venom. The silence of the afternoon was shattered by two muffled rifle shots from the roof of the Nevada Hotel. The town, already in mourning, cowered deeper inside its adobe and plank walls. For Billy the Kid, the silence was now a working vacuum. The air cleared, the immediate threat neutralized. They rode out of Red Bluff as the shadows lengthened, the sky turning a deep, hazy gold and purple. The sniper, a nervous man named Chino, was now tied securely and tossed over Dave's saddle, his new Creedmoor rifle already appropriated by Tom. They set up camp 20 miles north, deep in the Devil's Gulch, a narrow, twisting canyon where the rocks provided natural fortification against any passing posse or bounty hunter. They built a small, carefully contained fire whose smoke blended into the dark rock faces. The air, though cooling rapidly, was still dry, carrying the scent of sagebrush and old stone. He talked fast, Billy said, looking down at the detailed map he'd scratched into the dusty ground with his knife tip. The shink-shink of the steel blade was the only sound, besides the crackle of the fire. Barlow's crew is at the Double S Ranch, about 50 miles from here. It's a fortified compound, an old Spanish mission, not just a shack. Dave was meticulously cleaning the captured Creedmoor, his face grim. Chino said they have 12 men, kid, heavily armed. The judge pays in gold coin and new model Winchester 1876 rifles. This ain't some backwoods gang. This is an army for hire. And the headquarters? Tom asked, spitting into the fire. Chino confirmed it. Barlow works for Judge Jasper Thorne in Silver City. Thorne is invalidating the land deeds of every honest rancher in the region using a fake government land claim. Barlow's crew is the muscle. The Double S is where they process the stolen deeds and store the illegal tax money. It's a treasury and a fortress rolled into one. Billy knelt over the map, pointing to a single winding line. We can't hit the Double S head on. The approach is a sheer cliff face. Too many rifles on the ridge. We'd lose half the boys before we heard the first shot. Then what's the soft underbelly of this snake? Dave asked, loading a fresh round into the Creedmoor's chamber. The snake's head is in Silver City, protected by the sheriff, but its heart is exposed. Chino talked about a supply train. They use the Whiskey Creek Pass to run payroll and new rifles from Silver City to the Double S compound. That train moves every Tuesday morning, light security. They think they're too fast to be caught. Tom leaned in, his eyes narrowed in focus. That's tomorrow, Billy. That's tomorrow. We hit the supply train. We don't kill the payroll guards. We take the gold and the rifles. We send a message to Barlow that we're coming for him, but we make him think we're just common bandits. That buys us time to plan the capture of the main target. And the hawk? The woman who killed the boy? Dave asked, his voice harsh. Billy's jaw tightened. Chino said she's never far from Barlow. She's his eyes, his security. If we hit the payroll, she'll be expecting us to come after the rest of the gold at the ranch. She'll be waiting. And she's the one I need to see face to face. The plan was audacious, relying entirely on the crew's speed and the element of total surprise. They needed more information on the Whiskey Creek Pass. Tom, take the fastest horse. Ride the trail tonight. I want every boulder, every blind curve, every shadow. I need to know where the guards will be exposed and where we can set up a natural bottleneck. You can't miss anything. Consider it done, kid. I'll ride like the wind's chasing me. As Tom prepared his horse, cinching the saddle tight and checking his canteen, Billy pulled Dave aside, his voice dropping to a low conspiratorial murmur. Dave, there's something else. That name, the Hawk. Chino didn't know her real name, just Isadora. I knew a woman once, a long time ago, down in Fort Sumner. She was a gunfighter. Fastest woman I ever saw. Beautiful, strong. She ran with a bad crowd for a while, but she swore she was going straight, moving to Texas. Her name was Isadora Maria Chavez. Dave's big face registered slow alarm. You think it's her? The woman who shot a 15-year-old boy in the back? Billy looked out over the dark canyon, his mind battling the cold certainty that was creeping into his gut. I don't know, Dave. But if it is, the moment I see her face, this stops being a job for Caleb. It becomes a duel of the soul. I need you to be my eyes. If I hesitate, if I let the past get in the way, you take her down. Understand? Our promise to Martha comes first. Dave nodded, his loyalty absolute. Understood, kid. I'll shoot the memory right out of her head if I have to. The night deepened. Tom rode out, his departure silent as a ghost. Billy sat by the fire, polishing his Colt, the metal reflecting the embers. The memory of the other Isadora, the laughing, deadly, passionate woman, warred with the image of the Hawk, the child killer. The Whiskey Creek Pass was a narrow, twisting channel, cut by years of erosion, surrounded by high, unforgiving ridges. If they could ambush the supply train there, they would have the gold and the rifles, and they would force Barlow and Isadora's hand. Just before dawn, Tom returned, his horse lathered and breathing hard. He slumped into the camp, exhausted but triumphant. Perfect spot, Billy. A sheer drop on the north side and a large, flat rock on the south. We can perch on that rock like eagles. The guards will never see us coming. But there's another detail. There was a lone rider heading back toward Silver City. A woman, fast, low in the saddle. She was checking the pass, riding point for the supply run. The Hawk, Billy breathed, the coincidence too much to ignore now. She's smart, Billy. She knows that pass is vulnerable. She'll be on that supply run. She's our first confrontation. Billy looked at his men. The sun was rising, painting the canyon walls in streaks of orange and blood red. His personal war was about to begin. The air in the Whiskey Creek Pass was heavy, still chilled by the morning dampness, smelling sharply of wet stone and pine needles. It was a stark contrast to the baked clay of Red Bluff. Billy the Kid, Dave Rudabore, and Tom O'Folliard were spread out along the high, flat rock formation Tom had scouted, looking down into the narrow, winding gorge. The terrain was perfect, a shooting gallery where the victims were forced to move slowly. They waited, prone, their rifles steady. Billy felt the tension thrumming through his body, not the nervous energy of fear, but the cold, focused intensity of the hunt. This wasn't just about gold. It was about confirming a devastating truth. At exactly 9 a.m., the first sounds arrived. The muffled, distant clop, clop, clop of hooves and the squeak of wooden wheels. The sound echoed oddly off the canyon walls, making it impossible to judge the distance. 3 riders, 1 wagon, Dave whispered, checking the safety on his heavy sharps. Simple protection. They think they're safe. Wait for my signal, Billy ordered. We take the 3 riders first. The driver is irrelevant. Remember the orders. Take them alive if possible. But the gold is secondary. I need the Hawk's identity confirmed. The small convoy finally came into view, a heavy, canvas-covered supply wagon laden with crates, driven by a sleepy-looking guard. Ahead of it rode 2 riflemen, scanning the ridges, but lazily. And riding point, about 20 yards in front, was the 3rd rider. It was a woman. She rode a black mare, low in the saddle, wearing a practical leather duster and a wide-brimmed Spanish hat that obscured much of her face. But the way she held her body, the relaxed, lethal confidence in her posture, sent a jolt of recognition through Billy. It was the same economy of movement, he remembered, the same easy rhythm. That's her, Tom breathed, sighting his rifle. The Hawk. Hold fire! Billy hissed, his heart pounding a desperate rhythm against the rock. The woman, Isadora, suddenly reined in her horse. She stopped right in the middle of the pass, where the shadow of the cliff was deepest. She wasn't looking at the ridges. She was looking down at the ground, at a place where the rocks were recently disturbed. She was too smart. She had seen a sign they had missed. Maybe a carelessly placed boot print from Tom's scouting trip. She raised a hand, stopping the entire train. She slipped gracefully from her saddle, her left hand hovering near the heavy-caliber revolver tucked into her belt. She examined the ground, then slowly raised her head, her gaze sweeping the high rocks directly toward their position. Her eyes, sharp and dark, finally settled on the faint, disturbed earth where Dave's boot had scraped the sand. "Above you!" she screamed, her voice carrying an unexpected, powerful clarity across the pass. "They're on the high rock." She drew her pistol, an impressive silver-chased Colt 1878 double-action, and fired 2 warning shots toward their position, purely by instinct and guesswork. "Now!" Billy yelled. The roar of the 3 rifles, aimed low, broke the morning. Dave's shot took out the closest rifleman instantly. Tom wounded the second, who fell into the dust, clutching his leg. But Billy's target was the woman. He didn't aim to kill. He aimed to disable, a crucial, fateful hesitation that went against every instinct of survival. His bullet hit the high rock just behind Isadora's head. In the chaos, Isadora scrambled back behind her black mare, using the animal as a shield, returning fire with lethal accuracy. The crack of her heavy revolver was distinct and terrifying. She wasn't shooting wildly. She was aiming for the small plume of dust rising where their bullets had impacted the rock. "She's too good!" Dave grunted, dodging a splinter of rock that flew past his ear. Billy had to make a choice, lethal action or confirmation. He chose the latter. He leaped from the high rock, scrambling down the scree slope toward the pass, his Colt already drawn. "Tom, Dave, cover me, I'm taking her alive!" He hit the pass floor, kicking up a cloud of ochre dust, landing 20 yards from the besieged wagon. He ran low, zigzagging between boulders. Isadora fired again, the shot tearing through the saddle blanket of his mare, Nellie, back on the ridge. She was that good. "Isadora, stop!" Billy yelled, sliding to a stop behind a massive piece of granite. "It's me, Billy!" Her rapid fire ceased immediately. A stunned silence descended upon the pass, broken only by the whimpers of the wounded guard. Isadora slowly stepped out from behind her horse. Her face was visible now, the same high cheekbones, the same intense dark eyes, the same scar above her left eyebrow that Billy remembered tracing with his thumb years ago. It was Isadora Maria Chavez. "Billy," she whispered, the shock evident in her tone. "Don't move, Isadora," Billy warned, leveling his Colt at her chest. "I'm not here for the gold. I'm here for Caleb Kane, the boy you killed in Red Bluff." Her expression hardened instantly, the shock replaced by cold, calculated venom. "I did what had to be done. Loose ends get snipped. Barlow pays well to keep his books clean. He was 15. He was a child." Billy's voice cracked with a rare emotional display. "You swore you were done with this life. You swore you were moving to Texas." "The price of a lie is cheaper than the price of a life, Billy. The judge offered a fortune, and I'm always loyal to the highest bidder. You should know that about me." She suddenly dropped to one knee, firing her Colt one-handed under the belly of her mare. The bullet whizzed past Billy's head, kicking up stone fragments that stung his face. She used the microsecond of shock to roll behind the wagon. "She's pulling a lever!" Tom yelled from the ridge. Isadora had reached the axle of the wagon. She pulled a heavy latch, not a lever for a rifle, but a trigger for a trap. The crates on the wagon were full of dynamite. The driver, recovering, reached for the reins. "It's a bomb," Billy screamed. "Dave, Tom, retreat." He knew instantly that the supply train was another decoy, designed to be detonated if attacked, turning the pass into a deadly rockslide, eliminating the attackers and destroying the evidence simultaneously. Barlow had anticipated a common bandit raid. Billy fired twice at the wooden axle, trying to disable the mechanism, but it was too late. He turned and sprinted toward the high scree slope, scrambling upward, dodging the falling dirt and small rocks. "Goodbye, William." Isadora's voice echoed cold and triumphant. A blinding flash of yellow light filled the pass, followed by a monumental, deafening crack that shook the entire canyon. A massive cloud of smoke, dirt, and splintered wood engulfed the pass. Billy was thrown forward, slammed hard against the rock face, the air knocked from his lungs. When the dust began to settle, he spat out blood and dirt. The wagon, the horses, and the bodies of the guards were gone, pulverized. The pass was now an impassable avalanche of rock. And Isadora, she was gone. Having triggered the explosion, she must have ridden out the back way she had scouted. Billy clambered to the ridge. Tom and Dave, though shaken, were alive, covered in rock dust. "She planned it," Dave coughed, wiping blood from his nose. "She set that wagon as a bomb. She knew we were coming." Billy looked down at the pulverized canyon floor. He had chosen love over justice for a moment, and nearly paid for it with his life and the lives of his men. His hesitation had cost them their leverage. "She knows I'm coming now," Billy said, his voice raw with fury and betrayal. "She knows I know her real name. She won't wait for us at the ranch. She'll go straight to Silver City to protect the judge and the rest of the gold. This stops being an ambush. It starts being a siege." They rode out of the decimated Whiskey Creek Pass, leaving behind the smell of burnt gunpowder and sulfur. Billy's face was set, a mask of grim determination carved from rage and profound disappointment. The hesitation at the pass, that moment where William H. Bonney had superseded Billy the Kid, would not happen again. The ride to Silver City was 20 miles of punishing, non-stop gallop. They changed horses at a dusty watering hole they knew, pushing the fresh mounts to their breaking point. "The judge's office is across from the Federal Bank," Billy instructed as they skirted the town perimeter. Barlow will be at the bank, collecting his final payment. Isadora will be there too. She won't leave the money or the man who signs her checks. The sheriff's posse is large, Billy, Tom pointed out, watching the activity near the courthouse. At least a dozen men visible. We're going in 3 against an army. We're going in 3 against corrupt men, Billy corrected. They're mercenaries, not fighters. They'll fold the moment their paycheck is threatened. We hit them simultaneously. Dave, you take the bank with Tom. Neutralize Barlow. I don't care how. I need the judge alive, but defenseless. He has the records, the proof for Martha Kane. Billy took a deep breath, his eyes cold as glass. And the woman, she's mine. The plan was simple, reckless, and perfect for Billy's signature style. Lightning speed, overwhelming shock, and focused targets. They split, Dave and Tom riding straight into the center of the main street, pulling up outside the imposing sandstone territorial bank. Billy went left, circling wide to hit the back of the judge's courthouse office. Dave and Tom burst through the swinging glass doors. The interior was gilded and ornate, filled with the self-important silence of high finance. Barlow, sharp in a new black coat, was standing at a teller's cage, stacking heavy sacks of gold. He looked up, his face a mask of shock, then fury. "It's the kids' gang!" Barlow screamed, drawing his Colt Lightning revolver. The bank erupted. Dave immediately took control, his great booming voice shaking the crystal chandelier. "Everybody down! We're here for the thief Barlow, not the bank!" Tom O'Folliard, moving with fluid speed, dove behind a mahogany desk, returning fire. Barlow's 3 private guards were instantly engaged. Barlow, a tactical coward, dove behind the massive steel vault, emptying his revolver at the ceiling, trying to cause a panic. Billy, meanwhile, scaled the back wall of the courthouse using the fire escape, silent as a cat. He kicked open the rear window of the judge's library, leaping into the room with a Winchester leveled. Judge Thorne, caught completely off guard, fumbled for the drawer of his opulent desk. Billy fired the rifle into the ceiling, a massive, deafening roar that brought dust and plaster showering down. "Don't move, Judge," Billy ordered, his voice icy calm. "Not a muscle. The game is over. The price for Caleb Kane's life is your own." Thorne, pale and sweating, slumped back in his chair. "You'll hang for this, Bonnie. I am the federal law." "The federal law is busy counting the money you stole, Judge. Where are the records? The deeds? The ledgers? I want them now." Thorne, defeated, pointed a shaking finger at a lockbox hidden in the floor. Billy retrieved the box, his evidence. He handcuffed the judge to his heavy chair, using a pair of shackles he carried for special occasions. Billy ran from the office toward the street. He could hear the escalating gun battle. As he approached the bank doors, a figure burst out, running hard. Isadora! She was not running away. She was running to the fight, reloading her heavy Colt 1878 as she ran, clearly heading for the side alley to flank Tom and Dave. Billy drew his Colt Peacemaker. They met face to face on the plank boardwalk, 2 legends of the territory, separated by 5 yards of dust and blood. "It's over, Isadora," Billy stated, his gun rock steady. "I have the judge." She laughed, a short, bitter, heartless sound. "You think you can stop me, William? I'm better than you. I learned from the best, and now I'm the one with the clean conscience. I'm a professional. You killed a child, Isadora. That's not professional. That's filth." "It was a job," she spat, her eyes blazing. "Then let's finish the job. Drop the gun." "I never dropped the gun for a man who hesitated," she sneered, recalling the moment in the pass. The tension was suffocating. Every breath, every shift of the wind felt like an eternity. This was the moment of ultimate reckoning. She raised her Colt. Billy raised his. The sequence was too fast for the eye, 2 distinct cracks. Isadora's bullet struck the ground between Billy's feet, kicking up dust. Billy's shot, unhesitating, absolute, hit her firing wrist. The impact was brutal. The Colt 1878 flew from her numb fingers, hitting the ground with a dull thud. She screamed, more in rage than in pain, clutching her shattered wrist. She had lost the duel. Dave and Tom rushed out of the bank, having just cornered Barlow and taken him prisoner. "Isadora Chavez," Dave said, recognizing her instantly from the bounty poster. "$1 million, kid. We could be rich." Billy ignored the money. He looked at the woman he had once sworn to protect, now defeated and bleeding. "Tom, cuff her. We're taking her back to Red Bluff. She's going to face Martha Kane, and then we'll see what the federal marshals do with a child killer." 2 days later, Billy the Kid returned to Red Bluff. He rode in clean, having shaved and changed his shirt. He found Martha Kane sitting on her porch, staring out at the road. He didn't give her the gold, he gave her the judge's ledger, the evidence that would restore her dignity and her neighbor's land. "Justice has been served, ma'am," Billy said. "The judge is in a federal holding cell. Barlow is dead, and the woman who fired the shot, Isadora. She's been delivered to the authorities in Silver City. The reward money will be used to compensate the families the judge ruined." Martha looked at the young man, the wanted outlaw, who had done what the legal government refused to do. "Thank you, William. May God grant you peace." "Peace is for men who stand still, ma'am. I ride for justice, and that means I keep riding." He mounted his mare. He had delivered his promise, but the cost was the final death of his own heart. He looked back one last time at the town. He was still an outlaw, still hunted, but for one brief, brutal moment, he had been the true law of the territory. He spurred his horse north, disappearing once more into the limitless, uncompromising desert. The trail of Billy the Kid continued, now heavier with the knowledge of a past that had tried to kill him.